Yeah, I was going to ask you a question, man, because our hair's getting pretty long. How long are we going to let this go? I mean,
Well, I don't know. I have to at least wait until Halloween because my costume requires longer hair. So yeah,
ooh,
so
so
I'm
you
gonna let.
mean we have from Wednesday, today, August 7th on MHI, we have from today until Halloween to
That's right.
guess what Tom's costume is going to be. He's growing his hair out, and we get what, a couple months to try to figure out what this is going to be. I absolutely love it.
Yeah.
I don't know how long I'm going to let mine go. I can't be 35 and looking like a hippie, so I'll
Why not?
probably cut it before. I don't know. The beard. I got to have some sort of resemblance of civilization, and when I get the beard going real long, I need all the help I can get. What is up, Broncos country? It is Wednesday night. It is time for MHI. He's Thomas Hall. I'm Luke Patterson. We are talking Broncos camp, and we are officially talking Broncos game week, preseason number 1 on the road against the Colts. Tom, how we feeling?
Feeling pretty good, man. I've been watching clips and stuff that are coming in from camp and listening to, a lot of what the coaches are saying and what are the people, that are out there, the fans that are watching what they're saying. And there's a lot of excitement going on. And, it's the excitement is right where it should be around Bo Nix, right? Like he's the guy that has to create the excitement. And so far, people have liked what they've seen. I mean, obviously, rookies.
I don't know. I don't know, Tom. Are they liking what they're seeing? Is there excitement with Bo Nix? Last I heard, I went over to milehighhuddle.com yesterday. I read Chad Jensen's article. Bo Nix is listed as not the 1, not the 2, but the number 3 quarterback. Tom, what is going on? It sounds like people are freaking out on social media. You're laughing it off. I'm laughing it off. Why are we chalking this up to just a silly little game?
Well, for the biggest reason, if you look at the depth chart, you will see if you actually look at it, every rookie is at the end of the depth chart. So basically, it's like carte blanche. Every rookie's at the end of the depth chart. It doesn't matter who
Yeah.
you are, you're there. And so, it's kind of like what can you make of it? What you can make of it is this: Zach Wilson has not been very good in camp. We all know that he's not a very good quarterback. I don't care who thought that his career could be resurrected. Bo Nix has looked better than him at the very least. So you can look with your eyes at camp and listen to what people who are there, what they're saying, and you know that he's not the third quarterback on the depth chart.
How dare you talk about Zach Wilson that way? The same Zach Wilson that has the long locks, like we start talking about our hair, right? And I've got mine up right now. But no, Zach Wilson out there, he's got his new look. It was a little goofy at first, I'll admit it. You got to go through the goofy stage, but you're exactly right. You go through the depth chart. A lot of folks are freaking out. We're going to go through that depth chart. We're going to talk about Bo Nix's reaction to the depth chart, preview the Colts preseason game, and more. But before we do, let's say what's up to Broncos country. Surprise, surprise, David Yonkin, first one in, man. I really, really appreciate that. There's no bigger compliment than to have your friends and family supporting you on these airwaves. Good evening, everyone. I hope all is well. David, all is well here in the Patterson household because we are about to rock with NFL football. I know we got to get through these next 3 preseason games, but it is on like Donkey Kong, Tom.
Yeah, it's exciting and it's funny because I'm sitting here looking at people trying to guess, or at least KB 88's the dude from the Big Lebowski was his first guess, which I
Oh,
love that movie.
we'll get into that. We'll get into the chat. We'll get
Okay,
into the chat. But before we do, Eric Flynn is showing some support out there. Facebook stars and love. Thank you so much, Eric. Guys, you guys can check this out over on X, over on Twitch, on Facebook, YouTube. We really appreciate the support. It's cool to see so many platforms too. MHH, man, we've got a lot in store for 2024. There's been a lot of planning going into this season. I can't wait to get into it. Sean Payton talked today down at Broncos HQ. You got to hear from Bo Nix, Jarrett Stidham, and Zach Wilson. So all 3 quarterbacks and their master, if you will, and head coach Sean Payton, the Jedi Master and his Padawan learners. We're trying to figure out which one is going to be elevated to full-time Jedi, aka QB1. All folks can do at this point is speculate, but we knew these silly little games, to quote Vic Fangio, were coming with Sean Payton. I think there's some showmanship in this, some gamesmanship, if you will. And if you actually look up the gamesmanship definition, by the way, it's talking about circumventing the rules, which I thought you would find hilarious since you're not really a Sean Payton guy, and I am. But look, man, there's no need to panic out there, Broncos country. Bo Nix, it is very clear who's in command of the training camp practices. When you go on social media, you see everybody talking about Cortland Sutton and Bo Nix. You hear about these deep bombs. You see the scrambling ability. I think you're right, Tom. There's a lot of reason to be excited about Bo Nix. Don't fret just because he's listed as number 3.
Yeah. Again, it's one of those things where it's a meaningless depth chart. Although I will say the one part that I was surprised is Levi Wallace is number 2 behind Pat Surtain, which was very curious to me because he's not a rookie. They brought him in to be the starter opposite of Pat Surtain. I know he's dealing with some injuries, but that was the only one that I was like, whoa, that is curious to me. So that's an interesting other than that. I think the rest of the depth chart was like Sean Payton said, he put it together in 5 minutes or whatever. I don't know. Who knows? But
yeah, he's so off the cuff, right? And he just is going to reveal everything to you. David McGrath, Papa Bear coming in here, $5 super. Good evening, Broncos country. Luke, Tom, and Deacon Scott, 12-5. Buckham, MHH for life. Denver Broncos for life. Knicks for 6. David, I was thinking about you today, and I was thinking about your eternal optimism as I was dropping my kid off, right, for the first day of school. I'm sure a lot of parents, a lot of families, everybody's getting used to the fall. It's right around the corner. It's why we're so damn excited here on MHI. We are finally getting ready to talk about real football, not just practices, not just workouts. Man, I'm feeling good. I'm feeling optimistic about Bo. I'm feeling optimistic about Sean, the offense. I'm starting to get even more curious, and then I get brought back down, plummeting to the ground, because I think of one person, Tom. Can you guess who that one person is that absolutely crushes my dreams and hopes and David's with a 12-5 prediction? Who would that person be and why?
It has to be Vance Joseph and his inability to put the correct players and plays and everything out there during the game. It has to be.
You're 100% right. I mean, you want to talk about turning a franchise around. You want to talk about building a culture. Yeah, you need a starting quarterback to win. Yes, the Broncos have never found one, drafted one, what have you, as of late. But defensive identity is so important in the NFL, especially among playoff teams, the elite championship teams, and the teams that are remembered forever. Case in point, your guy, our guy, Randy Gradishar, was just inducted this last weekend, Tom. He was the first member of that Orange Crush defense to be enshrined in the Hall of Fame. And I'm feeling good. I'm listening to the ceremony, right? The speech, getting all the feels. And then I think about our current defense, and I'm like, some players, there's some holes, but the man that's leading this is Vance Joseph. Vance Joseph didn't hire himself, Tom, but I got to tell you, Sean is absolutely driving me crazy. He's talking about Jonathan Cooper today and looking to see great things. When's the last great pass rusher that came under Vance Joseph's defense? Oh, wait. We can talk about TJ Watt. He's always been a freak. But, David, I thought about you. I want to be optimistic. I'm not so sure I'm ready to go to 12 wins yet. But, Tom, Vance Joseph is absolutely killing all the Bo Nix vibes I have, all the Sean Payton positivity. Vance Joseph ruins it all.
Yeah. Well, and I'll tell you this. I said this last year, and it did not come to fruition. And I'm going to say it one more time. I'll give Vance Joseph one more chance, and this is why. It doesn't have to be the greatest defense of all time. In fact, I don't even think it has to be like statistically top 10. It has to be opportunistic and take away the ball when it's needed most. And that's, if they can do that, they can win, right? That defense can win, even if they give up some yards, even if they give up some points. At the end of the game, if he can put the players in the right position to get a takeaway when it's needed, when they need to close out that game, I'm going to be okay with Vance Joseph. Last year, that didn't happen. It happened for a little while, historic run almost of turnovers, but you can't count on that all the time. He's got to really, really coach these players and scheme them correctly.
you can't expect a rookie first-round quarterback to carry a defense. And I fear that's what we could be looking at here in 2024. I don't know. We're going to get a decent idea. I say decent because it's preseason. You know, Sean Payton wants some starters to play, but they're going to be on pitch counts, right? I know there are a lot of baseball fans, Scott, one of them too. They're going to be on pitch count. They're got to really be careful with how they're utilizing these guys, when they're utilizing these guys. And you're going to see, unfortunately, some guys get hurt. What's that going to mean for the depth chart? Is the depth chart just going to completely change on Monday morning, on Tuesday, when they're back out there after an away game in Indy? Time will tell. Phil McLaughlin coming in here. Thank you so much for all the support over on Facebook, Phil. Absolutely love you. Good evening, Luke, Tom, and Deacon Scott. I thought it was a cool trick that Sean Payton decided to use the white jerseys for the first game, making the opponent wear black in the heat. Hashtag Buckham, MHH for life, and Broncos for life. That's an interesting take you got there, Phil. I saw that out there earlier today. Tom, anything for Sean Payton to get an advantage, he's going to try to do. And he doesn't care if people scoff at him, if they laugh at him, if it's silly. I mean, we have heard of crazier things in this league that is the NFL.
Yeah. Well, Miami, I mean, the Dolphins, they almost always are wearing white for that specific reason. They don't wear the darker colors at home. So they're almost always in their white uniforms, but I actually prefer the home uniforms at home. I don't like wearing the white, and it's a visually, my visual
Aesthetics,
preference, so to speak.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, if that's an advantage, then by all means use it, because they have to have a chip on their shoulder. They have to use every advantage they can. They've got to be coached really well this year to actually make some noise. So,
well, and I'm still, to be completely honest with you guys, I'm still getting used to the jerseys themselves. Not like I complain about them. I mean, I've accepted them. It's happening. But Phil, it was pretty cool to see like that jersey release schedule. So you know what they're going to be wearing. They've got those throwbacks, those baby powder blues on the opponents they should have it against, right? The Raiders and the Chiefs, Tom, last I checked. Of course, that needs to happen. I mean, we've got to beat that streak against the Raiders. But, Phil, I've been thinking of you, man, because every time I see that powder blue helmet, that's my favorite logo. That's my favorite set of threads, Tom. What about you?
Oh, yeah.
Because there's been a lot to do about the uniforms this season. This was a big deal. The helmets, no more gloss on the helmets. They're matted. Completely different threads, and Broncos country seems really excited about it. Oh, we lost Tom for a minute. He will plug back in. Speaking of which, thoughts and prayers to everyone affected by the hurricane that's out there on the East Coast as well. Let us know how we can support you. Thoughts and prayers. We want to definitely make sure everybody's safe. Was it hurricane? I forget the name of these damn hurricanes, Tom. I mean, is it Irma? It's not a Debbie. Okay, right? Debbie. Hurricane Debbie out on the East Coast affecting the Carolina, Georgia's area, and previously Florida. And then thoughts and prayers for all those folks out there battling wildfires. I know I had a wildfire almost in my backyard a week ago during this show. So we really, really appreciate everybody for tuning in, and thank you so much for bearing with us and our StreamYard/internet issues as we continue to bring you MHI. He's Thomas Hall. If you'd like to get at him on X, that's at Thomas Hall NFL. Please reach out to Scott as well, at Scout Kennedy, and yours truly at Luke Patterson LP. Here we go. We're talking Broncos football. Obviously, we're still basking in the glory that is Randy Gradishar, immortalized, Tom, in Canton. We're feeling pretty good about that. We're feeling really good about that. And then Sean Payton drops the depth chart on us. And we're not all completely surprised that Bo Nix was buried. But Bo was asked about it straight up today. And I was curious how long it would wait till someone answered or asked that question, rather, because it's kind of awkward, right? And you're getting to know Bo and everybody's shoulder to shoulder out there. And they literally asked him, Bo Nix, on if he noticed the unofficial depth chart. His answer, quote, couldn't care less, end quote. And that should ease every worried member out there in Broncos country if you're worried about him technically being listed as the number 3. When you hear Bo Nix say, quote, couldn't care less, end quote, about the unofficial depth chart, what do you think, Tom?
I think it's just like what I said. Like it's not an official depth chart. it's Sean Payton throwing stuff out there. All the rookies are at the end. So he should say something like that. Like, I don't care what the depth chart says. I know what I'm out there doing. I'm out there playing well. And wherever they put my name, it doesn't really matter right now. So it's like when I think about in the past when Mike Shanahan got in trouble from the league by not putting every player that was been slightly injured on the injury report. So he put every player on the injury report the next week. So every player was injured, had some sort of injury on the roster. So it's one of those things where it's Sean Payton is doing something, and it really doesn't mean much for the rookies, at least in my opinion. All the rookies are at the end. That's the way it goes.
Yeah, and Todd coming in here, another one of our friends, saying Sean Payton said a depth chart's not ready yet. Had to put out something unofficial, having the rookies take the last spot. We're trying to ease some nerves out there here in Broncos country, right? Because a lot of folks, you're going to draft a first-round quarterback just to sit him on the bench. Sean Payton, what a moron. No, I don't think that's the case. Time will tell, right, for both of these guys. But Sean Payton's got a couple pelts on the wall. Bo Nix has yet to get it. Here's what I thought when I heard Bo Nix say he couldn't care less. Sounds like a Sean Payton guy to me. Sounds like a guy who knows the plan. Sounds like a guy, and I'm still trying to figure him out. It's very early. We're in the honeymoon phase with Bo Nix right now. Trying to get to know each other, and there's not a lot of bad out there with Bo Nix right now, and that's what you want, right? You don't want to hear some of these Caleb Williams things, big personality things, turnovers, all sorts of stuff like that. So things for all intents and purposes are going well. I've noticed Bo Nix appears to be a little more salty and authentic and Sean Payton like when he's on the field, when he's off the field, when he's got pads on, when he's got a jersey on, when he's got sweat on his brow, when he puts the hat on, when he puts the shirt and tie on and gets in front of the microphone, he's a little more buttoned up. So that just made me a little curious. I'm like, a Sean Payton guy. Phil McLaughlin coming in here wondering about some Sean Payton guys. Guys, what's your take on getting Uwuzurike back? Tom, we've been following this story, and I'm surprised Broncos country has been following this story a little bit more closely than I have. What is this curiosity with Uwuzurike, who is coming back from suspension?
Yeah, well, if Uwuzurike, to me, I was dead wrong. I didn't think he was going to play another down. Like, I was like, no, they're not going to chance it. But almost immediately after he was, all the charges were dropped and everything, and the NFL reinstated him, he came back. From my perspective, I'm glad. I was a big fan of Uwuzurike. I mean, to me, he's got size, he's got length. He could, and he was developing. I noticed a big improvement in his rookie season. Well, not a big, I noticed an improvement as the year went along. And I was looking for more from him in the next year. And then, of course, this all happened and he was suspended. So hopefully he can rekindle, that progress that he had, because he is a big, long kind of, defensive tackle who hopefully can, stop the run and even apply some pressure when possible. But yeah, I mean, he's got the right size and, he's fairly athletic for that size. I mean, not incredibly, but yeah, there's a lot to like about him. It's how much has his growth been stunted by that year off when it was that would have been valuable experience for him.
I got to be honest here, Phil. I really don't care about Uwuzurike, but for the sense of the show and for caring, how's this? Every team needs a Dennis Rodman. Every team needs even a fall guy, right? Is that former Chris Carter said that, former Vikings receiver? You've got to have a fall guy. Maybe here's a fall guy for some penalties. I don't know. Maybe it's a fall guy. I don't know, man. He's a 4th-round pick from 2 years ago. You're right, Tom. He's a mountain of a man. He's 6'6", last I checked, over 300 pounds. So size isn't everything in this league. It's definitely part of it. It's one of those boxes that you have to check, but he's getting another opportunity. It'll be interesting to see what he does with it. I mean, so many times. Why is it that these D linemen are usually, troublemakers? I'm not saying Uwuzurike is a troublemaker, but he got in trouble. I'm thinking of Randy Gregory. right? And the Broncos had a cup of tea with him. It was an expensive cup of tea, and
Yep.
then sent him on his way. I mean, they have got to start figuring it out. And I see the chat asking about pass rushers. Pass rushers. Who's a dark horse pass rusher? Well, Coach Sean Payton seems to be falling all over himself with Jonathan Cooper today. You've mentioned Nick Benito. We're still waiting on some medical updates with him. Not a lot to report today. That's per Sean Payton. But look, I think you have to have a strong season from Jonathan Cooper. I mean, I'm not buying the hype. I want to see it first. I hope he puts some more weight on because he's always been thin. But that's what these preseason games are about too. We'll start to get a good look at guys who haven't been facing each other every single day. You can actually get some good looks. So we'll see.
They have to have one of those edge guys jump from last year, make a big leap, because they don't right now. When you're looking at that roster, there's not an elite pass rusher on the team, especially from the edge. They're solid. Don't get me wrong. I like Jonathan Cooper. I like Nick Benito. I like Baron Browning, but they have to take a pretty sizable step in order to get elite pass rushing ability, right? Like they have to have that. And if they don't, it's going to be tough to generate a pass rush. And I don't know if it's Jonathan Cooper. Maybe it's just none of them to me, except Nick Benito, really has that quick twitch ability that we're really looking for. I'm not going to put any of them in the Von Miller scale, but Von Miller, man, that guy could get off the line so quick, and it was incredible. So they need somebody.
It's funny you bring Vaughn up, because I saw one of those Facebook shorts the other day of Julian Edelman and Rob Gronkowski talking about him on a podcast, and Gronk was talking about how they had to just kind of redesign blocking schemes for Vaughn because he was so quick coming off the ball, and then they went to silent count. The Denver double, I think is what they were calling it, or something like that. It was just unfair hearing Gronk talk about the way the matchup was, and Julian Edelman obviously weighing in on it as well. But then it was funny because I saw a social media video of Vaughn out there today. I think it was Dove Kleiman, or Dope, whatever his name is out there on X. I know I got to give him credit, right? But it's one of these things, man, where he goes, describe Von Miller. And it looked like he was just kind of going through some pass drills, getting against the bags. Didn't look like there was a ton going on there. But again, it's camp, right? But it's just interesting you bring up Von Miller, big shoes to fill. Jay Roper's coming in here, pushing back against our pass rush concern a little bit, and probably what I asked Vance Joseph, pass rushers. When's the last one? Zach Allen. Zach Allen, Jay, was my training camp MVP last year, and he left me with all kinds of egg all over this big face, just like Jerry Jeudy did 2 years in a row also for training camp MVP. I mean, I have got to see it in the regular season from Zach Allen. I was happy with the signing. I always am going to wonder if we should have let Draymond go. It's not like he was a catalyst, but it makes me wonder if he could have been one of those defensive leaders, at least changing the culture. Cause I don't know what a culture looks like for Vance Joseph's defense. I really don't. We want Nick Benito to do well. You got to get healthy. Baron Browning, can you stay healthy? Can you stay available? Jonah Ellis, I don't know, man. There's so many concerns with this defense. Yeah. My attention is squarely on Bo Nix, because if I'm going to be honest, Tom, I think this offense is going to be tasked with trying to supplement and figure things out, because Vance is so incompetent.
Yeah, but you can't rely on the offense to score a bunch of points all the time, because they also have their issues too. No doubt about it. Rookie quarterback, unhealthy tight end group, or lack of star talent there. Got a couple decent wide receivers, but some injuries. There's question marks in that skill position. So you have to have everything clicking in order for this offense to really shine. And then you got to think, well, is the defense going to do their part? And right now, that's like I said, that's a question mark because of Vance Joseph.
Well, speaking of clicking, I would like you guys all to head on over to milehighhuddle.com. We just got done talking about, and we're going to continue to celebrate Randy Gradishar being enshrined in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Tom has an article up, milehighhuddle.com, predicting the next 3 Denver Broncos to be elected to the Hall of Fame, one of which their names has already been on this pod a few different times already. We've
That's
mentioned
right.
the name. So head on over to milehighhuddle.com and check it out. Dylan coming in here saying, one of our very own, our Saturday night, saying he's a fan of the interior line. He likes the beef up there. And again, speaking of milehighhuddle.com, Dylan's got an article going on power rankings. Can Bo Nix finally change the trajectory? I hope so, Dylan. I hope so, man. But good work, dude. Dylan's been putting out all kinds of work over at milehighhuddle.com. We had a comment up. I had it for just a second. Broncos country is wondering what's going on with the safeties, specifically Ace Broodstar. And speaking of safeties, Ace, Zach's got a piece up. And Justin Simmons is in New Orleans, Louisiana. I'm rapidly trying to tap in the news bar and social media. I do not see any news that Justin Simmons has been signed by the New Orleans Saints. Tom, it's like Justin Simmons watch 24/7 around here. Should
It
Sean
will be.
Payton pick up the phone and give Justin a call?
It's going to be a Justin Simmons watch until he signs somewhere else, because I was surprised when they waived Caden Stearns before they even got to preseason. I don't know what that's all about. I don't know what happened behind the scenes. To me, it was kind of shocking. I mean, I know that Caden Stearns has not been healthy all the time, and but he has some talent. He's shown some flashes. It was very strange, especially when there's nobody else really behind him that's proven. I liked JL Skinner coming out. Didn't play it down on defense last year. We don't know what he has to offer. It was a head scratcher, and I think there's more to it. But then when that happened, that ignited Justin Simmons, go get Justin Simmons. I don't think it's in the cards. I do not think Sean Payton is going to bring Justin Simmons back. I think he's moved on from that, turned that page, and that's it. And Justin Simmons is going to be playing somewhere else. I could be wrong, like I was with Wazarike, but it just feels like, it's a deal that's not going to be done.
KB coming in here. Can JL Skinner find his way on the field? I love his size and length. I love him too. Scott, did you like him at the Senior Bowl? I liked him. He looked like he had some piss and vinegar. He looked raw. But get on the field, young man. I mean, you have to earn that right. It's not just going to be given. I think we're going to see JL Skinner get opportunities on special teams, Ken, this weekend. That's where these young guys, we're going to learn who can wrap up and tackle, who can cover, who can be coached. These simple tasks are going to be put to the test against the Colts this Sunday. That's this preseason what I would really encourage folks to watch. I know we're going to be on quarterback watch, but the competition is, for all intents and purposes, it's Bo Nix's gig, right? We all know it. Jarrett Stidham knows it. Zach Wilson knows it. We're making fun of the unofficial depth chart, right? I mean, we all kind of know it. So it's not like years past where it's Teddy versus Drew and let's go stat for stat in the preseason and then let's put them in this box and then that box and compare. No, I don't think we're going to be doing that. Instead, I would really challenge Broncos country to keep an eye on the kickoff, the kick return, punt, some of these units that have plagued the Broncos for years, because you have got to find some young guys that are willing to do this. You know that the backups, the old dogs, they're limited, right? With how many of them you can have on the team, specifically with the cap and the cap hell that the Broncos are living in. Russell Wilson, did you see? Named as the starter against the Steelers today. Did you see that? Unofficially, right? I mean, unofficially, and Scott's been on this for a while, man. I mean, not surprised about that. But Justin Simmons watch, we're still on Russell Wilson watch, if you will. Let's talk about Russ for just a second, Tom. What do you think? How do you think that's going to work out there? How many games do you think Russ is going to start? Is he going to play in the preseason at all? I don't know. I don't know what Tomlin likes to do with his starters.
Apparently, last I heard, he was dealing with a calf injury. That's why there's been more talk about Justin Fields kind of, pushing him, because he's probably not going to play in this first preseason game, from what I understand. So Justin Fields is going to get the start in the preseason. I don't know how it's going to go. I was super excited when that trade happened to Denver, and man, it just didn't work out. And I don't know. I mean, I like Tom. I think he's a good coach. I don't know about Arthur Smith as the offensive coordinator who came
No.
in. I don't know if he's going to be able to utilize him correctly. I have no idea. So to me, it's a wild card. Russell Wilson could have a really good season, or he could have another really bad season. I think it could go either way. You never know.
Russell Wilson's a dope, all right? And I hope that the Broncos, I hope that he is starting, and I hope that the Broncos drive him into the ground. Do I think they will? I don't know. Again, this pass rush, Vance Joseph's defense. God dang, if there was a comeback game, wouldn't it be against the Vance Joseph defense when you start thinking about, I mean, I'm talking all my garbage. I hope Russ gets smacked, and I don't want anybody to get injured or hurt. Don't get me wrong. But at the same time, I could see Russ having a fantasy football like a day against Vance Joseph's defense, right? And look, the Broncos still have to escape training camp with relatively low injuries. I mean, we're talking about some of these injuries, talking about what your guy Levi at CB2. Can he stay healthy? Can he stay healthy? Because we need him to.
Yeah.
The cupboard's pretty bare when you start looking at that defensive secondary, which, by the way, should be Vance Joseph's specialty. And I'm not going to spend the rest of the show making fun of Vance Joseph, Tom. I will not do it, no matter how hard you try to trick me into it.
Well, it's funny because when I looked at the depth chart and I saw Levi Wallace at number 2 behind Sertan, and I saw Damari Mathis or Riley Moss at cornerback 2, I'm like, dang, this does not bode well. One, I thought Damari Mathis had plenty of potential after his rookie season. He was awful last year. Riley Moss didn't get on the field. I actually thought that maybe they were thinking about putting Riley Moss at safety after they let Caden Stearns go. So this depth chart, and it was only a couple of things that really caught my eye. That was one of them. And Levi Wallace is the other one. Like, they brought Levi Wallace in to be the number 2 cornerback. And if he's not, that's worrisome. Unless Riley Moss can somehow make a big jump that we aren't anticipating.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? Because we're talking quarterbacks, we're talking Vance Joseph's defense, what to expect preseason against the Colts. The quarterbacks are all out there and they're all playing the role of the competition. They all spoke today at the podium. Jarrett Stidham knows where he's at. I mean, he even said today, talking about rookie contracts and the pay scale changing, quote, especially being a first round pick, I make fun of Zach Wilson all the time because in their rookie contracts, they've made more money than I have my entire career. So I'm like, look, you two guys, you're off the hook no matter what. Look, Jarrett Stidham, smart guy, and smart guys tend to last in the NFL for a long time. It's hard to find the next version of a Ryan Fitzgerald or Fitzpatrick. Ryan Fitzpatrick. These journeyman quarterbacks that bounce around the McCowns, right? Like, it's hard to find some of these guys, and you never really want them until you absolutely need them. And I'm thinking like Broncos versus Saints. Philip Lindsay going out there and starting QB1. You know what I mean? Like, and I know there were some weird things going on that year. Thank you, Drew Lock, by the way. It'll be interesting to see, man. It's just, I think Jarrett Stidham knows the writings on the wall. Zach Wilson knows where things are at. Bo Nix knows where things are at. That's why he's saying, quote, couldn't care less, end quote. That's Bo Nix's answer about the Broncos' unofficial depth chart. The guy's got to just be living on Sean Payton's hip, right? How connected do you think Sean Payton and Bo Nix are? Do you think they're texting constantly? Do you think they're seriously, man? Do you think they like that? I don't either. I'm just trying to figure out the day-to-day life on, like, all right, you're Sean Payton, you've got a team to manage. I'm sure a lot of different personalities. You've got coaches, you've got staff under you, a whole building. I wonder what it looks like on the day-to-day with Bo. I wonder how much time Sean's spending with Bo in the office going over film. I'm very curious about those things because that's all I can do right now is speculate on what I want to happen this season and what I hope to happen because Bo Nix was handpicked by Sean.
Yeah, I'm sure they have a relationship, but I'm sure that I'm not sure. I would imagine that they're not spending a ton of time together just because the head coach has a lot of responsibility. He better be spending a lot of time with quarterbacks coach, though, offensive
Davis.
coordinator, those and Jarrett Stidham. I mean, like you were talking about, Jarrett Stidham knows that he's probably going to be one of those career backups that has a long career, makes good money, and gets in the game once in a while, but there to help the young guy really start to grow and get better. So those are the folks that I think he's probably spending a lot of time with. But like you said, though, Sean Payton and Bo Nix now that they're kind of glued together, and they have if Bo Nix is successful, Sean Payton, is successful. If not, then people are going to point to him in drafting Bo Nix number 1. So I'm sure he's doing a little bit extra to make sure that Bo Nix is successful.
Well, and people are wondering about Davis Webb. It's interesting that you bring up the Broncos quarterback coach, because a lot of folks in the league have a projection for him, and they're thinking that Davis Webb is on his way to becoming a play caller one day. Now, how soon will that come? Hey, man, when opportunity calls, you better pick up the phone, because this league and this life, rather, waits for no one. So it'll be interesting to see Davis Webb's cultivation under Sean Payton. Again, that one was odd to me. That kind of threw me for a loop when Davis Webb was hired as the quarterback's coach. Spent some time in the league with the Jets, the Giants, previously with Texas Tech, right? I mean, he's definitely accomplished enough for Sean Payton, at least, to shepherd a room with Jarrett Stidham and one Bo Nix.
And we'll have to see how it works out this year. If Bo Nix really kind of progresses through the season, you're going to see Davis Webb start to get those opportunities, because it's hard to judge last year's quarterbacking situation and the coaching from, Davis Webb. But this is a prime opportunity for him. If Bo Nix has a pretty solid rookie season, I think Davis Webb's going to get a lot more buzz about his name, taking that next step. It might not be next year, but a couple of years, if that continues to improve, he's absolutely going to get a shot. Young up and comer who has a bright future. Man, they love that. Teams will glom onto that nowadays. They're not waiting for the old crusty guy to retire anymore.
No, not at all. It's all about the next thing, right? The NFL is very progressive. It's always trying to get ahead, and speaking of that, it's interesting, these preseason games too, Tom, because the Broncos announced the broadcast team, at least for the first 2 preseason games. And I don't know about you, but there are some broadcasters I love and some that I absolutely can't stand. Either way, I'm watching and they're getting a reaction out of me, for positive or negative, right? I've always been a Steve Levy guy. I like listening to Steve Levy. He's going to be on the call in Indy. Steve Levy and former Broncos right tackle Ryan Harris, along with Cynthia Freeland, right? She's always great. And Scotty Gang, I think he's one of our local guys over at 9 News. So that'll be nice. And then the KOA radio team, my former head coach, Dave Logan, Rick Lewis, and Susie Wargen. Are you Steve Levy guy? I used to really like Steve Levy and Brian Greasy. Obviously, that doesn't work anymore with Brian coaching out there in San Francisco with Cal. What do you think? Do you like?
Yeah, I think it's a good pairing. I like both of them. I'm not a big broadcaster guy. Sometimes I'll turn the TV down and not listen to them, especially if they're annoying. Like, I know people love Troy Aikman. He annoys the heck out of me. I can't stand to listen to him.
I'm right there with you.
I do like, Levy, and I think Levy and Harris will be a pretty fun one to listen to.
Are you making fun of Aikman? Are you making fun of Aikman? No. You got that twisted. Wrong Cowboys quarterback. It's Tony Romo for me right here.
Yeah,
you got the wrong.
He says things that it's like he always is like, oh yeah, that's a great comparison. It's like every time it's like, oh yeah, this is great. Oh yeah, that's great. It's like, dude, sometimes you can't compare a running back to Barry Sanders. You just don't. Like, you don't have to. You don't have to agree with that kind of thing.
Man, the Troy Aikman, you know what? The Cowboy, let's get all the quarterbacks off the air. Tom Brady's coming for him anyway, right? Isn't Tommy Boy going to be calling it for Fox here soon? That's going to look interesting.
One guy.
Of course he is. He's never been number 2 unless he's with Eli. Watch Eli show up. Eli shows up at the broadcast.
Exactly. Eli will bump him out of the booth. ESPN, Peyton and Eli will be number 1 ahead of Tom Brady during the broadcast. But
Oh
Man,
man.
I don't know. It's going to be interesting with Tom Brady because I don't know if he's a very likable guy. So it's going to be interesting if he can get people to be interested in what he has to say.
Well, it's interesting because you say I agree with you. I don't know how much people like Tom Brady. I thought he really did well as the villain in Tampa. I don't think he had to like be as buttoned up and, he could kind of be himself. He could, experiment with his personality and teammates a little bit. And I don't know. He had the avocado tequila was great. I'll never forget that. But no, man, Dave's coming in here with Aikman, only politically incorrect guy on the air anymore. Yeah, that's just it. That's kind of why I like listening to Aikman because I mean, he might just go off on somebody. And remember, Broncos country, he has gone off on the Denver Broncos before. I can remember against the Kansas City Chiefs. I think it was the game Pat Mahomes broke his ankle. And Matt Moore came in, high school coach, and absolutely whipped up on the Broncos. And Troy Aikman let the Denver Broncos have it on air, just completely eviscerated them. When I'm talking about commentators and broadcasters, what about the guys that haven't previously played? So for me, one name I really, really like listening to, whether that be on radio or on television, Kevin Harlan. I think that man has one of the best radio voices you could possibly have. I love listening to him. Mike Tirico's another good one if you want to listen. And then Colorado for a long time, we had Alvin Roach, and Alvin Roach went up to Minnesota, and he has one of the deepest, crisp radio voices that was just sent from heaven, man. And I think he's doing Vikings play-by-play now. But I like some of those commentators that haven't played because they make you feel like even if you're a casual fan and maybe you've never played football, they bring you in. And that's we try to steal little elements, at least I do. I'm not calling games, but this is something where I want everybody to come in and let's huddle up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? This is Mile High Huddle. Let's welcome folks into the huddle. And I think Kevin Harlan does a good job at that.
Yeah. What I don't know why we're getting on broadcasting, but the thing that makes me not like a lot of the guys
because
is
this
when
is
they
our
start
show, Tom.
gushing.
We get on whatever we want.
I hate it when they start gushing about somebody. It's like, oh, this guy can do no wrong. And it's like, just, don't show that you are biased in any way. If you're out there, I get it. It's hard to, but, be a little bit unbiased. Try to just call the game. Or when they start talking like constantly, it's like, we want to watch the game. Stop talking. Let's let the game play out. That's why I loved Daryl Johnston. He was, I remember one game, he like told the other broadcaster to be quiet so he can watch the play. I loved it.
I liked BA when he was in there, Bruce Arians for a little bit, like doing the NFL live show and Roy Osborne coming in. Can't forget about Booger. I can't stand Booger, man.
God,
I can't stand him. I mean, but he does his job, right? Sometimes you got to get in that villainous role. Speaking of personalities, right? We're talking about some broadcasters, Kevin Harlan and former Broncos right tackle Ryan Harris. I'm mixing up my Ryans, my tackles there. Ryan Harris are going to be on the call this weekend, the first two games. Former offensive coordinator Adam Gase was out at Broncos practice today, Tom, and I feel like Obi-Wan Kenobi were both Star Wars nerds. Now there's a name I haven't heard in a long time. Adam Gase memories. Go.
Oh, just getting jobs he didn't deserve because Peyton Manning was able to make him look so good, man. That's my biggest memory about Adam Gase. Other than that weird press conference he gave when he was the new head
with the
coach
crazy
of the
eyes?
New York Jets with the crazy eyes. Yeah.
Oh man, I know that still remains one of those mysteries, right?
Yeah.
Like one of the great
going on.
Everybody wants to know what happened with Kennedy back in the day, and I still want to know what happened with Adam Gase's crazy eyes. Was that 2-3 years ago? It feels like just yesterday because those weird little things happen, and then we eat it all up, right? Over on social media. Look at KB.
The funny thing, I watched someone put a taco floating around with his eyes following a taco. That was the funniest thing I saw.
The taco was good. Oh, KB's trying to stir up trouble, asking out of the Mile High Huddle broadcast team who would be the best national broadcaster. You know what, KB? I see what you're doing there, and welcome to the podcasting world, man. I caught you the other night over on Facebook. Turn the light on. You looked like you were interrogating me in that interrogation room. We all have these lovely helo lights, but no, KB, you're doing great, man. I really appreciate all your hard work too. Adam Gase, Peyton Manning for me, right? Those were some good years. Those were offensive statistical juggernauts. And then I think, what happened, Adam Gase? I mean, remember when he was at USC? I mean, the future looked so bright for Adam Gase and all the success that was ahead of him. It just goes to show you how hard I think this NFL thing is. We're sitting here falling over ourselves, wondering about Davis Webb becoming an offensive coordinator. Not so fast. It doesn't always work out. And I especially think that case is true with Adam Gase. I think there's a big mystery there. I don't know if it's a personality thing. I don't know if the league just kind of passed him by, if things weren't a good fit. No clue. But for all intents and purposes, Adam Gase was just skyrocketing, full of potential, and it never really worked out after he left Denver.
Yeah. Well, a lot of that happens sometimes. Some people just aren't made to be head coach. Good offensive coordinators, good defensive coordinators. There's more to being a head coach than just being able to put X's and O's on the field, right? I mean, it is a leadership role. It is being able to get everybody together to realize that strategy that you have.
But not just that, Tom. He never really regained his OC or playmaking, like play calling. He never really did the head coaching thing because it wasn't a fit. Did that bother him so much that it threw off his play calling abilities as just an OC?
I think people realized that Peyton Manning was making everybody around him look so much better. And then they're like, yeah, Adam Gase was not as good as we all anticipated, what we thought, because a Hall of Fame quarterback makes everybody look better. And I don't care who you are as a coach. Look at Bill Belichick.
What about Tony Dungy? What about Tony Dungy? William coming in and challenging you a little bit, Tom. Tom, do you think Tony Dungy was a good coach, or did Peyton Manning just make him too?
I think Tony Dungy was a very good coach, but Peyton Manning made him a better coach. Absolutely. Tony Dungy was a great defensive coach, and I thought he did a good job in Tampa Bay. But remember, they brought in somebody else to win that Super Bowl that Tony Dungy couldn't win in Tampa Bay with pretty much, a very similar cast. Brought in John Gruden to win that. So I think Peyton Manning, Hall of Fame quarterbacks and great coaches go hand in hand. But when you watch when those Hall of Fame quarterbacks leave, the coaching does tend to struggle. The only coach that I can really point to and say that guy did it, had ultimate success with quarterbacks that weren't that great, Joe Gibbs. I give him all the credit in coaching because he didn't have an elite level quarterback when he won those 3 Super Bowls. So he's one of them that I'd point to. But for the most part, great quarterbacks really help your coach look better, especially offensive coordinator.
I must be getting old, Tom, because man, those were some of my favorite memories growing up of football, like just starting to understand the game and fall in love with it. And Tony down there in Tampa before he went to Indy. I mean, man, you think of some of those players, Simeon Rice, Derek Brooks, of course, Johnny Lynch, Barber, all these guys, man. But it's good, man. It's good to reminisce on the good old days. And Tony Dungy, that's a good argument. And I appreciate Will for bringing it up. And I appreciate you humoring the pushback, Tom, because that's always a fun conversation, right? Who made who? And I think the Tom Brady Belichick thing is just a synopsis of that entire argument, rather. Who did it? And it's like, I don't think there will ever be an answer because they both have the hardware and there's no taking it from them. Speaking of former Raiders head coach John Gruden, he was spotted in some Chiefs gear, I guess, over at Chiefs practice. So people are wondering, freaking out, is John Gruden going to be consulting with the Kansas City Chiefs, or is he going to get hired? I don't know, but I can tell you this. I've heard rumors since he's been out of the league that Gruden has somehow been around the NFL. I'm not going to go out there and say that per source he was consulting at Luke Patterson LP. No, none of that. But the name has been around. I don't know how involved he is. I don't know if he's touring the 32 teams like Bill Belichick. I don't know what it is, but what's your thought on that? John Gruden, Kansas City Chiefs, would Andy Reid bring him in? They have a relationship.
Well, they had a relationship that goes way back, way back. He might, absolutely. I mean, as long as he can. Like, I don't know the whole what happened, if the NFL's like, you can't hire this guy kind of thing in the behind the scenes or whatever after all that went down. I know there was a lawsuit and all sorts of stuff. So I don't know what it entails, but absolutely, if Andy Reid thinks he's going to help that team, he's going to do what he can to bring him in and let that take place. So, I mean, Andy Reid's a great coach and a smart coach. So if he thinks it's going to help the team, he'll do it. He doesn't care about, past discretions or whatever it may be.
No, not at all. A little louder for Chiefs Kingdom in the back. Again, Andy Reid does not care if you are a quality human being. I'll say it. But look, that's this business, if I'm going to be honest. And I always try to tell folks, be careful about meeting your heroes, right? And be careful about picking your heroes. I think that term should be reserved for the elite human being. And that definition, I suppose, is up to each one of us. But you're trying to put a collective group. You said it at the top of the show. You're trying to put a collective group of individuals and make them a team. And there's turnover every single year, whether that be in management or in the workforce. And you somehow have to make the numbers work. You have a limited time together that you can build this thing without playing games. What am I talking about? I'm talking about off-season workouts. I'm talking about camp, mini camp, all those sorts of things. It's limited when you think about it, Tom. I mean, Sean Payton hasn't had a lot of time with Bo Nix. Yeah, they drafted him back in April, but on the field work as the Denver Broncos quarterback, I mean, that's why preseason is so important. I'm not trying to sell anybody on watching the game Sunday. If you don't give a gee whiz about the Colts game, about the preseason, see you on the other side. Yeah. But I think there can be a lot to be learned. That was horrible. I sounded horrible. There's a lot that can be gained and a lot that can be observed and learned in these preseason games. Yep. For example, Jarrett Stidham, is he going to prove to Broncos country that, yeah, he looks great out there and that's why he's technically listed as the one? Maybe. Or he could go out there and fall on his face and then the rumbling's going to happen. I mean, preseason games, they don't count, but they are meaningful.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's obviously the defenses are going to be showing their cards, and it's going to be if you're in with the third stringers, you're going to look a lot better. But there are takeaways, especially with rookie quarterbacks, to see if he can make those progressions, make his reads, not fold under the pressure that happens, that type of stuff. My key is watching the preseason game. I want to see the folks that are on the bubble, who are going out there and playing their all and doing something to make that team. There's always one of those guys that you're like, that guy's going to make the team. He's got to. He's out there playing his rear end off. So those are the things that I like to take away from preseason more than whether they won or lost or how great an experienced quarterback looks or whatever. So
yeah. And well, to add to that, I'll give you some specifics. Another position I'm going to be looking at, of course, quarterback. How about center? You don't have to go too much further from quarterback. Let's start with the center. What does Luke Wattenberg look like? Alex Forsythe, Sam Mustipher. I mean, I've been concerned about all three. I really want to see between Luke Wattenberg and Alex Forsythe where we're going. It sounds like it's Luke Wattenberg's to lose. Crazier things have happened, and injuries happen in preseason all the time, and that dictates and shapes some of these transactions and some of these moves. So I'm looking at the center position for one. I'm also looking at your guy, Alex Palczewski, who's technically backing up Mike McGlinchey at the right tackle position. The Broncos have to keep Alex Palczewski healthy. He has to be somewhat durable, because after losing Quinn Bailey at your interior guard, the Broncos don't have a lot of depth. I'm talking Will Sherman, Calvin Throckmorton, these kinds of names. Yeah. Start looking at the offensive line, folks. Look at the defensive line. Wide receivers, you know what you've got. Let's see what all the hullabaloo is about Josh Reynolds. Josh Reynolds, Bo Nix's favorite wide receiver right now. He's, for all intents and purposes, the number one. And no, he's not going to be the X. That's Courtland's job. But, Lil Jordan Humphrey, I liked him. There's some dark horse candidates out here on just offense. Yeah.
The Valet is apparently looking excellent in camp. And I said that. I told you when we were making the bridge, I watch for him. He's got the size, the speed, the experience. He's going to turn some heads in camp. I don't know if he's going to make the team, but yeah, if he goes out there and balls out, they're going to have to give him more opportunities. So it's one of those things where you watch to see who kind of pushes somebody above them to get that next step. And you never know. You could have like Terrell Davis, Hall of Fame on your hand just because he turned some heads with the tackle on kickoff.
Yeah, Mike McFlinchy is what Roy calls him. I love it. I'm immature. I love a good nickname. Not looking good as in camp, getting burned. Yeah, man, it's tough goings for the Broncos right tackle right now. I mean, you cannot go out there and have penalties. No. You know, you're gonna have MAs, missed assignments, but if you're going out there and you're kicking early on a preseason game, number one, man, I would want to be a fly in the wall of that film session for Sean Payton. Offensive line coaches generally are, you know, can get pretty colorful in terms of their character when going through film. I can only imagine Sean Payton in that offensive line room. Yeah, here we go, man. Preseason game number 1. It'll be Sunday on the road against the Colts. The Broncos will be wearing their brand new white uniforms, right? So we'll get to take a look at that. I hate it when the Broncos play the Colts, Tom, if I'm gonna be completely honest. I not a lot of good memories in that building or in the house that Peyton built, right? I mean, anytime I think about Broncos Colts, and I think especially there, man, I think of Peyton's reunion there that was spoiled. I think of Aqib Talib poking people in eyes. I mean, like, just it's not good memories, man.
Yeah, and the blowouts when in the playoffs. So the only time that Peyton Manning had like amazing games, it seemed like in the playoffs, was against the Broncos in those wild card games or whatever it was horrible.
Oh, yeah, it was brutal. Let's you know, I'm not gonna hold you to a prediction, right? But what do you think first team reps, right? We're gonna see Jarrett Stidham. If you were to bet, Tom, who comes in for Jarrett Stidham in the second half? Is it Zach Wilson or no, is it Bo Nix?
Bo Nix. I think they know Zach Wilson, unless an injury happens, is on his way out. I think Bo Nix is coming in right after Stidham, and I actually think that they might pull Stidham early and get a better look at Bo Nix with the starters.
Here's what the Broncos can't have happen. Jarrett Stidham, do not get hurt. Luke Wattenberg, do not get pushed back in a pass pro situation and step on Jarrett Stidham and bum him out with an ankle, because I do not need Bo Nix and Zach Wilson leading this team. I think even if you saw something like that happen, you'd have to get another journeyman in here just so you had some voice of reason, if you would. So it's more of what I'm not looking for, Tom, and what I don't want to happen. Again, these are things that are outside of our control. When you look at the defensive side of the ball, all right, Zach Allen, let me see it, man. You 2 summers in a row, you've been dominating. Show me in the preseason, and then let's carry it over to the regular season. John Franklin Myers, welcome to Denver, baby. I've heard great things about JFM. He may be one of the best free agent signings at the end of the day. We have covered that at great length on this show. Riley Moss, I'd love to see you. Jaquan McMillian, welcome back. I hope we can have another campaign to build on, just like last year. I mean, I think there's a lot to go on right now in these preseason games. And the reason being, there's so many holes on this team, Tom. I mean, usually when things are penciled in, it's easy to say, let's skip those preseason games. They don't matter. Let's go dominate the regular season. No, they do matter, because we don't know who the hell's going to be starting on offense, defense, or special teams.
Yeah, and the other thing, you want to look for someone to look much better than they did last year too, even in the preseason games. You know, like I don't know, Nick Bonito. Maybe he's just tearing it up in preseason. You got to have that hope, you know, someone that can make that big step. And I hope it's Bonito. Hope Zach Allen looks incredible. There's a few guys that need to just kind of make that step. Riley Moss, hopefully. You got to see a few of them, but that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for that kind of extra step from the year before from these guys.
Boom. Chad Jensen, our very own, coming in. Thanks, man. $20 super. Bo Nix's response to QB3 was awesome. Again, quote, couldn't care less, end quote. That was Bo Nix's response to the unofficial depth chart. Chad's got a couple articles up on Bo right now. You could read about him over at milehighhuddle.com. Do not forget to check out Tom's article where he predicts the next 3 Denver Broncos that will be enshrined into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. One of those names we've mentioned a couple times on this show. Don't forget Dylan Von Arks. He's got the power ranking articles coming back. Broncos are at the bottom right now. Will Bo Nix alter that decision and ultimate trajectory of Sean Payton, Denver Broncos, successful franchise? Those are things that we've been wanting for and asking for years, Tom. Is it so much to get some winning football around here? I mean, I'm happy the preseason is here. I'm also a little nervous, right? I'm also a little nervous. I'm excited. I'm nervous. I'm overall giddy. Here we go.
Yeah, I'm hoping so because the Broncos have been starved for wins, and it is time to make that turnaround. Because the Broncos their franchise has been riddled with success. Even when they lost the Super Bowl, they were a very successful franchise for so many decades, and now it's been rough. They have to turn it around, and Bo Nix, if it's going to happen now, it has to be the guy that does it. I mean, obviously it's team sport, but Bo Nix, the quarterback leading this team, has to be the one that does it. It's not Stidham.
No, it's not Stidham. No, and Stidham, we need you. We need you, Jarrett. Don't go anywhere. Don't get hurt. Don't get sick. We need you. I'm not trying to run you away or anything, but give my guy Bo that respect that he needs. Dylan Von Ark's coming in, DVA. Appreciate Dylan so much. He's been writing his tail off all off season. I see you, Dylan. I really appreciate it. It's been so much fun hosting with Dylan on these airwaves. You could catch Dylan with Ron White every Saturday night on OBV at 6 p.m. Mountain. Great conversation as always. Everyone, the chat was off the chain tonight. Make sure you share this pod on all platforms and hit that like button on the way out. Remember, a little bit does go a long way. Another fun show in the books, Tom. Next time we talk next week on Wednesday, we will have preseason game number 1 officially done. We can actually talk about football that happened, not drills, not one-on-ones, not 7-on-7s, none of this silly stuff on social media. No, we're going to have game film to go over. I can't wait.
Yeah, I'm excited. I will probably have to watch, replay because now that I moved, I'm not going to see as many games, which is a bummer.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll watch the replay and I'll be ready to bring my thoughts next Wednesday.
We'll get you all fired up, guys. Head on over to milehighhuddle.com. Give all of our articles a read. Head on over to X at Mile High Huddle. Give the official flagship station of your Broncos coverage a follow. If you'd like to reach out to Tom, that's at Thomas Hall NFL. Yours truly at Luke Patterson LP. Couldn't do it without Scott at Scout Kennedy over on X. Don't forget Broncos for breakfast in the morning. Man, these guys are dominating. It's so cool to see Broncos country repping from all over. We were talking about that before the show started. Catch our guys, Scott Kennedy and Nick Kendall. Please give that guy some hell for me. I love him. And then don't forget, Mile High Huddle podcast is going to be coming back tomorrow night. You'll get the guys, Chad and Zach. Broncos country, preseason game number 1 into Indianapolis. This is the way.
This is the way.